Imagine walking down a street and every single step you take literally earns you thousands of dollars. Now, try to multiply that by decades of dominance. We are talking about a woman whose net worth is currently closing in on a staggering $400 million. How does a girl born in a tiny, rural town in the heart of Brazil grow up to become wealthier than almost every legendary professional athlete she has ever dated? It sounds like a total fairy tale, right? But for Gisele Bündchen, it was more than luck. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. Back in the late 90s, the fashion world was a pretty dark and moody place. It was the era of heroin chic. You probably remember the look, super pale skin, dark circles under the eyes, and a vibe that felt totally exhausted. It was the industry standard. But then, like a literal burst of sunshine, Gisele arrived and changed the game forever. She did not just walk the runway, she conquered it. Gisele ended that gloomy era and brought back a healthy, athletic, and sexy aesthetic that the world was starving for. People called her the Uber model because she was simply beyond the category of any regular supermodel. She was a force of nature, and when she finally hit the big leagues, Gisele did not just sign contracts, she broke records. Have you heard about that legendary $25 million deal she signed with Victoria's Secret? At the time, industry insiders thought the brand was losing its mind. It was considered the biggest gamble in fashion history. Was one single person really worth that much money? Well, spoiler alert, she was worth every single penny. She turned that brand into a global powerhouse. And they helped turn her into a massive household name. But do not think for a second that this was an easy ride to the top. This absolute goddess of the runway was actually rejected 42 times when she first started trying to get work in London. Can you even imagine that level of frustration? 42 people looked at Gisele and said no. They told her that her nose was too big and that she was too skinny, yet she did not quit. She pushed through all that rejection to become the highest paid model in the entire world for 15 consecutive years. 15 years! In a world as fickle as high fashion, that is basically an eternity. Here is where things get really interesting though. Gisele is not just a pretty face, she is a legitimate financial powerhouse. Economics even created the Bündchen Index. Whenever she signed with a public company, their stock prices often soared. She had a literal Midas touch. If Gisele wore it, the world wanted to buy it, and Wall Street definitely took notice. Is she just a model, or is she a secret financial genius? Honestly, it feels like she is both. Back in Brazil, she was teased constantly as a teenager. People told her she would never make it because of her nose. The scouts who passed on her must be kicking themselves every single day now. She was just a girl with big dreams and a walk that could stop traffic. Gisele was the ultimate underdog who somehow became the queen of the world. But every legend has a specific turning point, a single moment where everything changes in an instant. For Gisele, that moment happened in the middle of a literal storm. Imagine a slippery runway and heels impossible to balance in. A crowd was waiting to see a total disaster. How did a chaotic, rain-soaked show turn this rejected teenager into an overnight superstar? You won't believe how she pulled it off. That is a story for the next part. The real drama is just getting started. Wait, you thought this was the end? Not even close. She was about to take over the whole planet. That legendary moment happened in 1998, and it was pure chaos. Picture this, a young Gisele, still fighting against the labels the industry tried to put on her. Standing backstage at Alexander McQueen's Rain Show. The runway was literally a sheet of water. Most models were terrified of falling on their faces in front of the world's fashion elite, but not Gisele. She stepped out into the artificial downpour, wearing towering heels on a surface as slick as an ice rink. She didn't just walk, she glided with a fierce determination that silenced every critic in the room. She was the only one who looked completely in control of the elements. That single show transformed her career overnight. McQueen himself dubbed her the Body, a title that previously belonged only to Elle Macpherson. Suddenly, the heroin chic era didn't just end, it was washed away. Every major designer was screaming her name, desperate to have that energy on their runways. But with that kind of fame comes intense scrutiny. And nothing fueled the tabloids more than her relationship with Leonardo DiCaprio. For 5 long years, they were the absolute it couple of the early 2000s. Imagine the paparazzi following their every move. They were the definition of Hollywood royalty. But behind the scenes, things weren't as perfect as they looked in the magazines. Gisele later revealed she was struggling with severe anxiety and panic attacks. She realized that while her professional life was soaring, her lifestyle was making her feel numb. She shocked the world by walking away from the relationship. She chose her own mental health over being the girlfriend of the world's biggest movie star. She wasn't going to let anyone, even Leo, dim her inner light. While her personal life was evolving, her business dominance was reaching levels we had never seen. Her time at Victoria's Secret wasn't just about wings, it was about cold, hard cash. She wore the Red Hot Fantasy bra, valued at $15 million. It's still in the Guinness World Records as the most expensive piece of lingerie ever created. But how did she get such a grip on the brand? Gisele wasn't just a model, she was a partner. She negotiated her contracts with the precision of a Wall Street CEO. She knew her Bündchen index value was real. If she was in the catalog, stock prices for the parent company often soared. She used that leverage to secure more money than any model in history. Then, the world stopped when she met the NFL legend Tom Brady. This was the ultimate collision of two different worlds. The queen of fashion and the king of football. Together, they built a combined $600 million fortune. They were the definition of a super couple, but Gisele was never just the wife on the sidelines. Even while raising a family, she was busy building a massive empire. Have you checked out her investments lately? She has an incredible eye for real estate, acquiring properties in Costa Rica, New York City, and Miami. And let's not forget her own sandal line, Ipanema. While others did one-off deals, she sold millions of pairs globally. She proved she wasn't just a pretty face. She was a savvy entrepreneur who knew how to make her money work. Of course, you can't talk about Gisele without mentioning her almost superhuman discipline. Rumors have swirled for years about her intense focus. We're talking about a plant-based diet, no white sugar, and a heavy focus on yoga. Is that the secret to her looking exactly the same at 43 as she did at 20? Probably. But it's more than just looks. It's the mental toughness that kept her at the top for 15 years straight. She treats her body like a high-performance machine, and the results speak for themselves. But even perfect lives hit roadblocks. Just when it seemed she had everything, the world was rocked by news no one saw coming. The marriage with Tom Brady started to show cracks that even luxury real estate couldn't hide. People started whispering about a retirement that wasn't really a retirement at all. In fact, she was preparing for an even bigger comeback. Are you ready to see her turn a publicized divorce into a financial rebirth? The next chapter is where things get really wild. You think you know Gisele, but Gisele 2.0 is just getting started. The stakes are massive, and she is reclaiming her crown in a way that will leave you speechless. When news broke that Gisele and Tom Brady were officially calling it quits, the internet basically exploded. It was the divorce heard round the world, and rumors were flying everywhere. People started whispering about her holistic lifestyle, even going so far as to call her a witch because of her deep connection to nature and her spiritual rituals. Can you believe that? But instead of getting messy in a public battle, Gisele did what she does best. She took a deep breath, stayed quiet, and focused on her inner peace. She didn't let the drama define her story. While everyone else was busy speculating on the details of the split, she was already planning her next move, proving her happiness and success were never truly tied to a trophy or a title. You might think a model over 40 would be looking toward a quiet retirement, right? Well, Gisele isn't just any model. Her return to the fashion world was nothing short of epic. Seeing her front and center in the Louis Vuitton Yayoi Kusama campaign felt like a global reset. She didn't just come back, she reclaimed her throne with a level of confidence that seemed even more intense than her early days. Then she hit the runway for Colchi back in Brazil, looking more radiant and powerful than ever. Seriously. How is she more in demand at 43 than girls half her age? It is that Gisele magic. She is showing the entire industry that age is just a number when you have that much star power and an unmatched work ethic. But it is not all about the high fashion glare. Gisele has used this new chapter to solidify her role as a voice for change. Her book, Lessons, became a massive bestseller because it stripped away the glamour to show the real vulnerable woman underneath the persona. She is not just selling clothes anymore. She is sharing actual wisdom. As a UN Environment Goodwill Ambassador, she is putting her money and her time where her mouth is, working tirelessly for reforestation and clean water. She is cleverly using that green image to bolster her brand value, showing the world that being a billionaire isn't just about what is in your bank account, but what you leave behind for the planet. She is a powerhouse for the earth. The public narrative has completely shifted. For years, she was often mentioned in the same breath as Tom Brady, but Gisele 2.0 is a solo act that is absolutely crushing it. On social media, fans are not talking about her as a wife on the sidelines anymore. They are cheering for the original icon. She is posting about meditation, horseback riding in Costa Rica, and spending quality time with her kids, and the world is eating it up. There is this clear sense of liberation in her new photo shoots. It is like she finally breathed out and decided to live for herself again. Everyone loves a comeback story, but this feels like a powerful evolution into her truest self. Financial experts are now looking at her empire with a new level of interest. Between her smart real estate flips and her early investments in wellness and tech startups, some predict her brand could reach that billion-dollar mark within the next decade. She's playing the long game, moving into the wellness space with the same ferocity she used to walk a runway. Whether it is sustainable footwear or organic skincare, she is making sure the Bündchen index remains at an all-time high. She is the blueprint for how to turn a short-lived career into a lifelong financial legacy. So will there ever be another Uber model? Honestly, Gisele might have broken the mold for good. In the age of social media influencers, her level of prestige and longevity seems impossible to replicate. She bridged the gap between the old-school supermodels and the modern business moguls. She did not just survive the industry. She conquered it on her own terms. She is the final boss of the modeling world. This journey from a small town in Brazil to the top of the global food chain is legendary. She faced 42 rejections, took a chance in the pouring rain for Alexander McQueen, and built a kingdom. Is Gisele the smartest businesswoman in the world, or was she just at the right place at the right time? Looking at her net worth and impact, it is clear she is a genius. Which Gisele era was your favorite? Was it the Victoria's Secret days, the Alexander McQueen era, or this new Gisele 2.0? Drop a comment below and let us talk about the greatest to ever do it.